A king once met a man who owned nothing. He found him lying on the ground, eyes closed, bathing in sunlight. The king stood over him and said, "I am the most powerful man in the world. Tell me what you want, and I will give it to you." The man opened his eyes and said softly, "Move aside, you're blocking the sun." That was it. No sermon, no bow, just light and a shadow. The king, with all his power, couldn't give what the poor man already had. Because sunlight isn't something you own. It's something you stop standing in the way of. Most of us live in someone else's shadow, chasing names, approval, a version of success that isn't even ours. We trade our peace for applause, our time for titles, our light for a little shade of recognition. But what if freedom isn't something you win? What if it's something you uncover the moment you stop begging for it? That man in the dirt wasn't poor. He was untouchable. He had nothing you could take and nothing you could buy. And in a world obsessed with getting more, that made him the richest man alive. When you need nothing from power, power bows to you. When you no longer chase approval, you begin to glow on your own. So maybe the real question isn't what you want, but what you're willing to stop wanting, so the sun can reach you again. In nature, there is no such thing as success. No wolf ever wins Hunter of the Year. No tree gets crowned for standing taller than the rest. They simply are. But we, the clever ones, couldn't stand that simplicity. We began to measure, to rank, to name. We carved invisible currencies: approval, prestige, fame, and told each other they were real. We minted a coin called success and spent the rest of our lives trying to earn it back. Now, everything is a transaction. Your worth depends on what you produce. Your peace depends on how you're seen. And we call this ambition when really it's debt. The tragedy isn't that people chase success. It's that they chase it without ever asking who designed the chase. Someone decided what counts as a winner, and we obeyed, never noticing that the scoreboard was built to keep us busy, not free. We're told to work harder, climb higher, fight longer, but no one asks what happens when you reach the top and realize the air up there is borrowed. The same applause that lifts you can drop you the next day. The same crowd that cheers your rise will quietly scroll past your fall. Maybe success was never real at all, just a story printed on paper and sold as meaning. Maybe the point was never to collect more coins, but to stop believing they were currency in the first place. Because if the world is the mint, then every man who measures himself by its coin will always end up bankrupt. He once watched a child drink water with his hands. The boy cupped his palms, lifted the water, and smiled. The man looked at his wooden bowl, his last possession, and threw it away. He said, "A child has outdone me in simplicity." That's what freedom looks like. Not owning more, but needing less. He called it training, not to build wealth, but to build immunity. Immunity to comfort, to approval, to the invisible leashes that pull most men around. Every day he practiced losing something. The comfort of being liked, the pride of being right, the illusion of being important. Each time he let go, a chain fell from his hands. He learned to sleep on the ground and still rest, to eat little and still feel full, to speak truth and stay calm even when the world hissed back. That kind of power doesn't roar, it whispers. It doesn't demand attention, it dissolves control. You see, most people mistake comfort for peace. They think if they can buy enough cushions, the hard floor of life won't hurt. But peace isn't the absence of discomfort. It's the absence of dependence. Every desire you can't let go of owns a piece of you. Every craving you obey writes its name on your leash. And the more you collect, the more ways the world can pull you. Freedom isn't about what you have. It's about how little can be taken from you. So practice letting go even when it stings. The man who needs least can walk through fire and smile, because nothing in the flames belongs to him anymore. There's a simple rule that most people never learn. You are not what you can't control. You can't control what they say about you. You can't control who gets promoted, who gets praised, or who gets remembered. But you can control the way you show up. You can control the care you give to your work and the honesty that shapes every action. That's where real worth lives, not in outcomes but in alignment. The problem is we've been trained to measure everything by noise. If people clap, we're doing well. If they don't, we panic. We hand over our peace to the crowd like it's rent we owe for existing. But peace doesn't come from being noticed. It comes from being consistent when no one is watching. Imagine the craftsman at his bench, the quiet rhythm of his hammer, the spark of metal under his hands. He doesn't check to see who's watching. He doesn't need to. The work is its own applause. And maybe that's the shift we've all forgotten. Work not for reward, but for rightness. Build because you must, not because it pays. Let the measure of your life be the precision of your effort, not the volume of your applause. Fame is wind. It blows loud and disappears. But skill, discipline, integrity, those are stone. They hold. They last. When the storm comes, wind scatters, but stone stays still. So measure yourself by what you can hold steady when everything else shakes. That's where your real value begins and where the world's illusion ends. At some point, the chase becomes quiet. The noise fades, the crowd drifts away, and you begin to see how small the stage really was. We've been taught to climb, to hustle, to compete, but no one tells you that peace is waiting in the opposite direction. Not on the mountain, but in the garden. The good life was never about excess. It was about enough. Enough food to eat without hurry. Enough friendship to share silence without fear. Enough time to sit and think without the need to post it. The world sells chaos as achievement. It praises the man who runs faster, not the one who arrives whole. It calls stillness wasted potential, but it is stillness that reveals what's real. Peace doesn't need to be earned. It's not a medal for exhaustion or a prize for performance. It's what remains when you stop auditioning for worth. Imagine this: a small table in a quiet yard, a piece of bread, a friend who listens without waiting to speak, and the sun on your face. That's not failure, that's freedom without applause. The man who learns to want less stops fearing the loss of more. And the one who stops fearing loss can finally choose how to live. Maybe success isn't at the summit after all. Maybe it's the chair waiting for you under a tree, the one you keep walking past because it doesn't look like victory. Some people build stages, others burn them down just to feel alive. But there's a third kind, the one who doesn't need a stage at all. He lives his truth so clearly that performance becomes unnecessary. He doesn't announce his honesty, he simply refuses to lie. He doesn't try to look strong, he just stops pretending to be weak. The world teaches you to market yourself, to polish, to filter, to sell. But the more you advertise, the more you forget the product, your own life. We've mistaken visibility for value, forgetting that light doesn't shout, it shines. Living as proof means your choices speak louder than your posts. It means saying no when silence would be easier. It means standing firm when bending would get you applause. Truth isn't loud, it's heavy. It sits quietly in the room and everyone feels it. You don't have to point at it, you just have to be it. There's a risk, of course. To live honestly is to live without armor. You will lose people who only loved your mask, but what's left will finally be real. The world doesn't need more performances, it needs people whose lives make lying impossible. So stop editing yourself for approval. Stop trying to look true and start being unshakably so. Because the moment you stop begging for applause, you start hearing something deeper. Not the noise of the crowd, but the steady rhythm of a life that no longer needs to prove itself. We've built an entire world on numbers, followers, salaries, likes, rankings, the new commandments of worth. They tell you, work harder, climb higher, buy more. but the graphs never show what they cost you: your sleep, your peace, your sense of enough. The data, ironically, tells a different story. Beyond a certain point, more money doesn't make people happier. It just buys more ways to distract themselves from emptiness. And the more we chase visibility, the lonelier we become. Every study of human well-being points to the same truth. Peace doesn't come from wealth. It comes from autonomy, mastery, and connection. The ability to choose your path, to be skilled at something real, and to share your life with people who see you, not your title. But modern life reverses it. We chase status and lose control. We show everything and feel unseen. We gain recognition and forget who we are outside of it. It's strange. The more we display success, the less we feel it. Because no graph can measure contentment, no algorithm can calculate meaning. The man who earns a living but loses his evenings has traded gold for chains. The man who earns less but owns his time has already won. So maybe the goal isn't to rise higher, but to stand clearer. To measure progress not in followers but in freedom. Not in luxury, but in leverage. The power to walk away. Because the truth is simple. You don't lack money. You lack the right to refuse it. And until you reclaim that right, no number will ever add up to peace. Freedom doesn't begin when you earn more. It begins when you need less. Most men wait for life to loosen its grip before they breathe. But life doesn't loosen on its own. You have to unfasten it, one chain at a time. Start small. Audit your habits for a week. Every purchase, every post, every gesture that says, "Look at me," write them down. You'll start to see the price of visibility. You don't just spend money, you spend yourself. Then try a weekend without buying anything. No upgrades, no deliveries, no dopamine on demand. Let your mind itch. Let your wants scream a little and notice how quickly they quiet down when ignored. That silence you hear after the craving fades, that's leverage. Limit your noise. Turn off the constant alerts. Check the world on your time, not theirs. Every notification you silence is a vote for sovereignty. And build a small safety net, not to escape work, but to escape obedience. A few months of savings is not luxury, it's permission. It's the power to walk away when the price of staying becomes your peace. Lowering your needs doesn't make you smaller. It makes you sharper, harder to buy, harder to bend. The less you owe, the freer your spine becomes. You don't have to burn everything down. Just reduce the cost of being you, because freedom isn't a dream. It's a spreadsheet, one you rewrite every time you choose restraint over reaction. And when you finally live beneath your means, you start living above their reach. Courage is not a feeling, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it only grows when you use it. Start with small rejections. Ask for something you're almost certain to be denied. A discount, a favor, a risk. Feel the sting of no. Let it wash over you and stay still. That's how you build immunity to shame. Because most men aren't ruled by fear. They're ruled by the fear of being seen failing. Next, draw a boundary. A single sentence that protects your time. I don't answer messages after 8. You'll be surprised how quickly people adjust when you do. Respect follows clarity, not apology. Then guard the few relationships that matter. Keep 3 close. One who grounds you, one who challenges you, one who walks beside you. Everyone else is weather. Finally, turn back to the craft. Not your job title, not your brand. The actual work your hands can defend. Spend 90 quiet minutes every day getting better at it. Sharpen the edge that can't be taken away when applause fades. Skill is dignity, precision is peace, and mastery is freedom in motion. Because when your worth comes from what you can do, not from what they say, you stop performing and start building. The world respects the man who creates silently and speaks through his results. He doesn't chase reputation, he shapes reality. And when you can stand behind your work without needing the crowd to clap, you've already won the only approval that lasts. It's easy to romanticize rebellion, to picture freedom as a man walking barefoot with nothing but sunlight and pride. But life isn't that clean. You have people who depend on you, bills, responsibilities, promises. You can't walk away from all of it, and you shouldn't. Freedom doesn't mean rejection of the world. It means rejection of illusion. You don't have to live in a barrel to live honestly. You just have to need less of what keeps you obedient. Reduce your fixed costs by 20%. That single shift can change the way you negotiate with life. You stop asking for permission and start making choices. Don't confuse ambition with addiction. Ambition builds, addiction chases. You can still dream, still create, still strive. Just stop needing applause to feel alive. And courage, real courage, isn't harsh. It's quiet, clear, and kind. You can be firm without being cruel. You can speak truth without turning bitter, because the goal isn't to fight the system, it's to stop feeding it with your fear. You don't have to disappear to be free. You just have to see the bars that others call gold and stop polishing them. Do not copy another man's life. His extremes were built for his chains. Copy the principle instead. The refusal to be bought. The calm that comes from enough. That's the only kind of rebellion worth keeping. There comes a moment when the chase simply stops. Not because you've won, but because you finally understand there was never a finish line. You stop running and start walking. You start choosing. That's the shift. From living to impress to living in alignment. From chasing recognition to choosing peace. You no longer fill your calendar to prove you're needed. You fill your days with what feels true. You no longer argue to be right. You speak when silence would cost you more. Your rhythm changes. You walk slower. You listen deeper. You leave more space between moments because peace needs room to breathe. You begin to notice small signs of strength. You say no without guilt. You don't flinch when misunderstood. You stop trying to fix what was never broken in you, and for the first time, you can stand still in your own light without apology. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives quietly, like sunlight through a cracked door. This is where the man who chases becomes the man who chooses. Not out of arrogance, but clarity. He's no longer looking for permission. He's looking for truth, and once you find it, every room feels brighter, every decision simpler because you're no longer living in anyone else's shadow. In the end, it's simple. Success was never the prize, freedom was. You can't buy it and no one can sell it to you. You earn it by subtraction, by needing less, by standing still, by refusing to trade your light for someone else's shadow. The world will keep shouting more, faster, louder, but you'll begin to hear something else, the quiet hum beneath it all, the sound of enough. Freedom isn't a gift. It's a discipline. It's built one decision at a time in the small moments when no one's watching. So here's your challenge. 7 days, 7 small rebellions. Day 1. Watch every action you take just to be seen. Day 2. Remove 5 things that add noise, not value. Day 3. Ask for something and let yourself be denied. Day 4. Spend half a day without buying anything. Day 5. Give 90 minutes to your craft, no distractions. Day 6. Draw one clear boundary and hold it. Day 7. Share a simple meal with someone who sees the real you and tell one truth you've been holding back. That's the work. That's the freedom. When you need less, you fear less. When you fear less, you move freely. And when nothing can be bought from you, nothing can be taken away. Don't chase success. Be unbuyable. Because the man who needs least is already the freest.